Hello, Internet. I'm Matt.
And I'm Monster Punter.
And this is the Parallax Scrolling Podcast, where we give you our perspective on video games and the news that affects them. And it's been a time. A little crazy week. Nothing too glorious to talk about, but I got some cool news in video gaming. But what about you? How's your video gaming been?
I've been gaming with friends more than anything else this week, but it's been good.
Ugh, humans. Ugh.
Yes. Somehow you just can't avoid them.
Yeah, they're like everywhere. Like cockroaches.
We really are, dude. We really are.
I know. Which, here, completely side note, non-video game related. Attention people of the planet. Could you please drive better? Can I just ask you to, actually use the speed limits and your turn signals and brake when appropriate and, pull up to the line at a stoplight and not have a car length between you and the car in front of you at a stoplight? That's, ridiculous.
On behalf of humanity, I will respond, no.
Well, then I respond. Anyhow. But how's your gaming been? You said you were playing with friends. What were you playing?
Yeah, I played Smite 2 came out, so I played Smite 1 for an incredibly long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to check out the second one, and it's definitely Smite. The items have changed, a lot of the ways some of you interact with, some of that stuff changes, but it's still at its core really just more Smite, and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
So it's is it Diet Smite? Is it Lemon Lime Smite? What?
I would say it's
Orange Smite.
Oh man, I don't want to say it's New Coke, but
Crystal Pepsi.
Yeah. At any rate, it's fine.
Okay.
It basically got a new coat of paint because they went from Unreal Engine 3 to Unreal Engine 5.
That's a big difference.
That is.
Yeah.
And overall, it's fun. I enjoy it.
Cool.
I think it's easier to unlock your gods. Like, you can pay the money to unlock the gods forever into...
Right.
If you want to go that route, it's like $35 or something. But if you're not going to do that and you just want to play the game, they do give you a token every time you level to unlock a god. So it's different than it used to be.
Okay, so it is much easier to unlock characters.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
I mean, at first it's going to be easy, but then as you play, later on, it's going to take a long time to level. But at least if you start the game and you want to get to know if you want to play it, you can at least unlock gods fairly quickly.
I would hope with that kind of setup that there's a week period where you can refund a token. Like you start playing a god and you don't like it, so you can refund the token and try it. Please give you a chance to try out gods and see if you actually want to keep them or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't tried yet, but it's definitely in beta still, and it's got some bugs. But
as most betas do, yeah.
Yep. Played more Spider-Man. I actually did get to play more Spider-Man.
Give me more games or Spider-Man. Okay, sorry.
You gonna be James Jonah Jameson? Or...
Yeah, then we're gonna spend the rest of the podcast talking in this voice. No, I'm not.
Spider-Man is a menace.
He's a menace. Give me more photos.
But Spider-Man 2 is a great game, and
Spider-Man 1 was a great game. Yeah. So I'd be surprised if it sucked.
Yeah, Spider-Man 2 is a great game. If you have if the ability to pick it up, I suggest anybody pick it up and play it. Great game. Available PS5, PC. Give it a shot.
Okay. Well, I played some more Armored Core 6, and it caused me to do something I don't normally want to do, and I shelved it. I ended up shelving the game for the time being. The reason being, it's twofold. I'll get into the second part later. But the big one is there's a point where you start playing the game and then you start picking up missions, and in the missions it says decision.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what's the decision? There's multiple endings. And depending on what missions you take determines your ending. And I'm like, okay. So I kind of started developing this decision paralysis. It started with Lords of the Fallen and an Armored Core, and pretty much any FromSoft game. It's like, oh, did you drink that potion? Oh, that's going to give you a completely different ending than if you just left it alone, or if you just smelled it, or if you fart in the bottle. I don't know. It's like FromSoft games need to calm down with the endings. I think I'm just at that point right now. I'm ending fatigued in a way. Like, I just want to play a game and play it.
Obviously, you should play Baldur's Gate 3 then.
Oh no. But while I was taking a break, I was like, I'm gonna do something different one night, and I picked up the demo for Fantasian Neo Dimension.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about this one before. It's an RPG where all the maps are real life dioramas that they took pictures of.
Okay.
And I did something I haven't done in a very long time. I bought a game within a month of it being released, and that was Fantasian Neo Dimension.
Oh.
I actually bought it because I was like, this is fantastic. I have to keep playing. And probably the biggest thing is this game has done for me something that most games have not done in a long time. It has kept me so invested in what's happening in the game that not only do I want to get back to it, but that I've lost track of time. A couple nights ago, I was up till almost 3 a.m. If you know me, you know that I am not a 3 a.m. type of person. But I was so gripped by the story and wanting to keep getting more information. The characters are actually interesting. The story is tropey to a point. Like, I could kind of see some of the things happening before they, came into being. But that didn't change anything. The combat's awesome. The story is well done. The music is great. And this was something that I kind of mentioned to you briefly a few nights ago, actually. You can change the battle music in Fantasian Neo Dimension because it's a Square game. It's a Square Enix game. And it's made by the creator of Final Fantasy and one of the major composers for Final Fantasy. Mm-hmm. So the two of them have worked together and brought this game out. You can change the battle music from what the game actually has to 6 different titles from Final Fantasy. And they are Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker, mm-hmm. Final Fantasy XIV, was it Dawn Trailer or something like
Dawn
that?
Trail, yeah.
Dawn Trail. Final Fantasy VII Remake, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Final Fantasy XVI, and Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster. And it's cool because... yes, the battle music and the boss music, they're just pretty much, these are the 2 songs you're going to listen to. But there's a mechanic in the game that, like, once you fight an enemy in an area, as long as you have the device, you can turn the device on. And if you fought those monsters before, they go into the machine. All right? It's called a dimension.
Okay.
Because it's a dungeon in a different dimension. And so you run around the map collecting all the enemies up to a certain point until it hits like a critical threshold. At any point during that gauge filling, you can go into the dimension and fight all those monsters at once.
Okay.
Which might seem kind of crazy, except for the fact that majority of the attacks in the game are like area attacks or line attacks that go through multiple targets, which is great because there's a guard mechanic that can prevent your attacks from going past enemies. So, like, it's very well thought out. But yeah, in the dimension, you can, like, just rack up combos of, like, I'm going to nuke 10 dudes at once. Let's go. And there's power-ups inside it and things like that. But it's great for farming. So it's like, I'm just going to run around. I'm going to fill up my dimension. And then I'm going to, like, get some levels here. And so that goes into, well, now I can change out the battle music. So that if I get tired of listening to the one song, I can go to another song. I can change it out whenever I feel like it. That's a really cool concept. Okay. And the game's really well done. And speaking of the decision paralysis part that I was talking about earlier, there are decisions you can make in the game. Obviously, that's just how it's like. Do you do this? Do you do that? Most of them don't have any like real major, like they have like a comedic side thing or a serious side thing, but nothing like this. None of this is going to impact the ending. But one of the things I did last night is I had to make a decision, and depending on what person I picked, they got a passive ability. That's it. Like, oh, that's kind of cool. I like that. Yeah, kind of like that. So it's just a good game. If you're into RPGs, Fantasian Neo Dimension is one you need to check out. Absolutely. Lastly, I ended up playing a demo for a game that the only reason I picked it up is because it was cheaper to get it part of the bundle for another game I wanted.
Okay.
On Steam. But Team Ladybug. They're the ones who made Record of Lodoss War Wonder Labyrinth, the Metroidvania, all right? They made up their very own Metroidvania. It's called Blade Chimera.
Okay.
It's like a pseudo-future demon hunting type Metroidvania. Like you level up, you do all the things that you would normally do in a Metroidvania. And I enjoyed the demo enough that I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll get this. But it was mostly because it also came at a hugely discounted price with another game that I had on my wish list already, which was a shooter, which I have yet to check out, but I'll have to show you at some time. But it's like, oh, these are kind of cool. So I got some games recently. I'm actually gonna look forward to playing Blade Chimera, and actually, I'm not entirely sure if I'm gonna record it for my channel because I do need to start putting stuff back out on my main channel if I can get time. Mainly because like I get lost in Metroidvanias. That's just how the game goes. But I don't know if that's entertaining. So it's more of like I got to figure out the entertainment value of that game and go from there.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's kind of my gaming cycle. I've also been playing some Super Metroid Map Randos, and they did something goofy with the Map Rando logarithm. Everything's goofed up. I got to a point where I got so frustrated I can't play them right now. Like literally, there's a point where it's like, oh, you want to go down this hallway to get to the map. Well, it's not really in this hallway, but it's going to look like it is. And it's a super long hallway full of dangerous rooms, and at the end of it is a missile pack. Not an item you really need to beat the game, but here's one. Like, oh, cool. I'm glad I spent my time fighting and almost getting myself killed and probably locked myself into this route. They really need to tweak the rando and fix it. But speaking of Super Metroid,
I know.
All right, I'm just making sure. For those of you who are wondering, I'm sitting here staring at Monster, reminding him that we have to record him playing Super Metroid.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
We're finally at a point where we can actually do that. We just got to get... We have the capability. We need the time.
Yeah.
So, we'll get there. And speaking of other projects, I will be... It's kind of hard to have a top 20 Metroidvania list when there's so many Metroidvanias that keep coming out replacing things. I'm just saying.
Why don't you just make one as of this date?
I will.
This is my list.
I will, but it's just been like... it's hard. See, here's the thing. Like, when we do like our top 10 SNES games or our top 10 RPGs or PS2 games, all these top 10s, here's the problem. It's hard for me, except for a very few cases, to actually say, this is number 1, this is number 2, this is number 7. I can't do that because I enjoy games. I try to just go with the flow and vibe and enjoy what I play. You know, like obviously I have nitpicks. Like I got nitpicks about Fantasian already. They're very minor compared to the overall enjoyment of the game, so I don't talk about them. But, you know, overall, I just try to enjoy my games, and to try and label one as my favorite just seems very difficult for me. So, I'm trying. It's difficult. It's difficult for me, okay? Give me a break.
Well, what can I say? It's
nothing. You can say nothing.
The Sega Genesis is the best.
Now that might be a list I can actually number.
I'm actually interested to see.
Like I could say like I like these games, but there's games like no, this is the best one.
Speaking of Metroidvanias, I'm actually interested to see ultimately when it's finished how the back port of Castlevania Symphony of the Night ultimately is. And you know what I saw the other day, and it's been in development for a little while. someone is backporting Vampire Savior to the Sega Genesis. Otherwise known in the United States as Darkstalkers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? That has a lot of animations and everything in it. But they're showing it off. And
Dude, okay, so for anyone who's not aware of the term, backporting is also there's another term used called demaking.
Demaking. Yeah.
Which have you seen the Bloodborne demake?
Yes.
So people are taking games and being like, what would it have looked like if it was on an earlier console? And some of these things are absolutely, utterly amazing.
Yeah, some of them.
It's kind of funny because the Bloodborne remake, when I looked at it, reminded me of Alone in the Dark. Or no, what's that one? Not Alone in the Dark.
From another world?
No, the Nightmare game. I'm forgetting what it's called.
Clock Tower?
No.
I mean,
like you play like a Shinto priest or something with a bow staff, and you go into Victorian England and kill demons. It was on the PS1. I'm trying to remember.
Jeez, man, I don't recall that.
Oh, I can't remember the name. If I can remember the name, I will try to put a copy of the image of the game here, and we'll see what happens. But don't expect anything. But yeah, no, there's a game. It's a lot of fun, but I just can't remember the name right now.
Tenchu.
No, not Tenchu. No. Don't keep throwing names out. It's gonna just throw us off track even further. I know the word nightmare is in the title.
Nightmare?
Yeah.
Nightmare Creatures?
Maybe?
That's the Nightmare. That's the game on PS1. Let me look it up real quick.
Okay, he's gonna look it up. We're gonna move on though while he looks that up. In fact, it's a good time for us to talk about comments. Yes, actually, no, sorry. That is it. Nightmare Creatures.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, okay. So we have the answer. It is Nightmare Creatures. Yeah, so the game reminded me of Nightmare Creatures. We're looking at that PlayStation Bloodborne remake. So, very cool. Very cool stuff. But I didn't know they were doing a Vampire Savior for the Genesis. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Good luck, guys. That's all I got to say. Good luck. All right. So we didn't get any comments for last episode, but we did get a comment from a few episodes ago. So I want to go over our comments real quick. That one dude we were talking about the Game Awards.
Mm-hmm.
Just to remind everybody. That one dude states, I was really entertained by the Game Awards this year. Lots of good announcements. I'm happy to see the return of Okami in Clover Studio. I played Okamadin on the DS. Cool to see a series that haven't had a new game in a while make a comeback, like Turok.
Gosh,
I added like Turok. That was, but yeah, no, absolutely. That one dude, I totally agree with you. I'm so glad Clover Studios is coming back.
I remember shortly after Beautiful Joe 2, I think it was released.
Yeah.
They closed Clover Studios, and everybody's like, "Why are we closing Clover?"
Because Capcom made bad decisions in that time.
All the Beautiful Joe games were really successful, although they were constrained at the time to just the GameCube, which I thought was a mistake.
Well, Beautiful Joe 1 was on the PS2, but Beautiful Joe 2 only went to the GameCube.
Yeah.
So Beautiful Joe 1 was cross-platform, though.
But those were really successful games, as far as I could tell. They shut them down.
Absolutely. And like I said before when we were talking about the game, they're going to bring back God Hand. And you need to understand how amazing that is.
I doubt they're bringing back God Hand.
They better bring back God Hand.
There's no way.
It doesn't need tank controls like it had, but it needs to come back in some way. It needs to... You can start off with a God Hand remake. I will forgive you and buy it, but I will forgive you. I think if there's any reason why God Hand won't be made today is because probably some of the stuff they pulled off in that game you cannot, in polite society, pull off anymore.
Oh man.
Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. But yes, thank you so much, that one dude, for your comment. Again, if you have any comments about our top games of 2024 from last week, please leave a comment on that. And anything we talk about today, please leave us a comment down below. We would love to get your feedback. And we like talking to y'all. So thank you. Alrighty. Enough of that silliness. It is time for some news. Now, the question. We have one big news story, which everyone's going to be talking about. So we should probably save that for last. Right? We got to tease up to that, right?
Sure.
Okay.
I don't care how we attack these, to be honest.
Okay, well, then fine, Mr. Man. You talk about which one you want to talk about first.
Okay. I want to talk about a man in Japan.
A man in Japan. It sounds like a song.
Japan was a man.
If Japan was a man?
I don't know.
What? It's a day, folks. It's just...
So, I thought this was really interesting, but it makes more sense after reading the article some more. There's a 58-year-old man that was arrested in Japan. This comes courtesy of Video Game Chronicle, by the way.
Most of our news stories come from Video Game Chronicle today.
Yes. He was arrested. They don't say what he got for a sentence yet, but he was selling Switch modded consoles for $180 in the equivalent of $180 in USD. And
it's 28,000 yen, folks.
Yeah, it has 27 pirated games pre-installed.
Which is why he got arrested.
Yeah, that's the real reason he got arrested. If you buy your Switch and you want to mod your Switch, there's nothing that really Nintendo can do about it. Understand that the companies out there do want to do everything they can to control what you do with the products you buy from them. A long-winded way of saying you buy your console or device, it doesn't even have to be a video game console, and they control what you can do on it, period. You can't, make modifications to it. They don't want you to change its functionality whatsoever. And so that's a big deal. There's a lot of that going on, and there's been a lot of anti-consumer sentiment out there. Luis Rossmann goes over it quite a bit. I'm a really big YouTuber. And I generally agree with him on this issue. If you buy something, it's a device and it's yours, you should be able to do whatever you want with it. And
right. And again, the issue here is not that the machine itself was modded. Because again, once you buy the device, it's yours. It's the fact that he put a bunch of games on there. And the Switch is still a relatively new system. Although there's another one coming, it's a relatively new system, and the rule's always been kind of like, if it's 30 years old, people don't tend to mess with it.
Well, yeah, Nintendo's still making money on the console right now, but
right.
The act of modding it, I just wanted to point this out, that the act of actually modding it is not the problem. It's the installation of the games on top.
The 27 pirated games.
Yeah,
that's there's some keywords in there, folks. But yeah, Nintendo. We got other stuff for Nintendo, don't you?
We do.
We got plenty of stuff for Nintendo. So I think something else too later, but talk about this other thing.
There was a small thing that was announced.
I think there was an announcement of something. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it had something to do with the number. Or is it
the number that's a secret?
Yes, that's it. At any rate, keeping with Nintendo for the moment. This also comes from Video Game Chronicle. Nintendo had remade Donkey Kong Country, right?
Yeah, they remastered it.
Remastered.
It's funny, we have to actually categorize it. There's a remaster and a remake of things, and you have to be careful which one you say.
So this comes down to people getting credit for the work they've done, and Nintendo didn't put in to the credits the giving credit to the original creators that made the game, the people at Rare, for whatever reason. But Nintendo didn't really respond. in a great way, stating that they value the contributions of all staff. But these people did work on the game. They deserve the credit for the original work. And granted, you can go back and play that original work, but it still feels kind of scummy.
Now, the only reason I have a theory, a reason as to why they didn't credit these people. I am not saying it is a good reason. I am not saying anything beyond that. But it is possible that since Rare got acquired by Xbox so long ago, they don't want to give credit to other foreign competitors. Possible.
It's possible, but
it doesn't make it right.
Yeah.
And that's not what I'm not saying it excuses the behavior. I'm just saying that's maybe the reason why.
And apparently they also did the same thing with the Metroid Prime remastered. To me, to a lesser degree, it's the same thing as Atari back in basically video game inception. They didn't want to give credit to any of the programmers of the Atari games.
Oh yeah, that's why if you play Adventure, there's an Easter egg room. It's the first Easter egg in a video game, I think.
Yeah, the first Easter egg in a video game is somebody trying to get credit for the game that they made.
Yeah. You found a hidden room and it said game made by this person.
Yeah. And so it's just kind of sad.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. You know what's also sad? The stupid nonsense going on with GTA 6. So, for anybody who has been paying attention, which is possible because I tend to squirrel, get distracted. There was an analyst who has come out, Matthew Ball of Apillion, who's an analyst for the game GTA 6, or he was talking about games that are coming out this year. And there's apparently hope within the video game industry, quotes, hope, that GTA 6 will price themselves at $100 so that the industry standard will change to $100 for a video game. That is, considering that they were one of the first people to actually do this 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thought about this. Two major things I think about. One, we're talking about the original transition went from $60 to $70. That's a $10 difference. All right. And that took how long? That took decades to change.
2006 to 2020, or 2005. Games were $50 through the PS2 / original Xbox era.
Games were $50 up to that point. Yes.
Yeah, pretty much.
From inception.
Nintendo,
From inception up.
And when the Xbox 360 came out, it was a big controversy at the time because Microsoft raised prices.
Yeah, we were all flipping out about it. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, and then Sony followed suit. Nintendo followed suit. $60 became the price norm.
Right. So 14, 15 years later, they bumped up the price $10.
Yes.
You're now saying 5 years later, it's justified to bump it up $30 more?
Well, they say they're trying to use the unprecedented excitement around GTA 6. That's what the...
Right, and they're claiming it because of inflation prices and wah. Here's the problem with that. $100 for a video game, if that becomes the standard, you are going to see a massive dive in video game prices, in video game sales, because people don't want to spend $100 on a video game. Some people literally can't. They cannot justify a $100 price tag on a video game.
I don't buy games for $100, but let me be perfectly clear here. This is not a for sure thing. This is just an analyst saying this. But what I think is bad is that if an analyst is saying this and more people talk about it,
follow suit, yeah,
they could speak it into existence in a way. And
right. So we're going to come out with a news story that says that game prices are going to drop to $40 as the new industry standard because that's the way it needs to be.
I think that games should be just give them to me.
Look, I'm all for I'm all for developers getting paid their fair due for their work.
Yes.
I've always been of that mindset. But there is also a point where you have to realize that $100, It doesn't matter what decade you're in, $100 is a lot of money, especially for a lot of people. Doesn't matter if it's 2020s, if it's 1980s, $100 is a lot of money for a lot of people, and it's ridiculous to bump this up so that video gaming as a hobby becomes a luxury for rich people and no one else.
All I'm gonna say is the gaming industry is bigger than Hollywood now.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's so much money being thrown around. They really need this, especially when they're probably going to have a similar mode to GTA 5 where, they just have the open sandbox.
Yeah, the multiplayer.
They have to put the multiplayer in, because can you imagine the colossal disappointment there would be if
people would just riot.
Yeah, they make so much money on that. That's the reason why it's taken over 10 years to see a GTA 6, because they keep making money off the multiplayer from GTA 5.
And for anyone who is just happened to stumble upon our podcast and just decided to listen because you love the sound of our voices, first off, thank you. If you're not understanding what this comparison is also equivalent to, since we're talking about movies, this is like saying that movie tickets are going to go up to $20.
Yeah, more or less.
That's unacceptable. That's just unacceptable behavior.
Yeah.
So we just gotta move on from this one. It's ticking me off. We gotta move on.
Speaking of more games,
speaking of more things ticking me off.
So, under the Jim Ryan era, Sony made a hard turn to make live service games, and live service games are very, very risky.
Almost like he let his greed control the direction of the company. Weird.
Oh man. Imagine that. Companies getting greedy. Here's the thing. There's an announcement this week where, well, not really an announcement, it's just reporting has been coming out that even one of the games that was being converted to live service was God of War. And
there was going to be a God of War title that was going to be made into a live service game, and there was also another live service game from another another studio that Sony runs, and both of them have been canceled.
I mean, Sony just dove straight into the deep end trying to find a game that they could turn into a live service game, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I get it. I know why Sony did it. Yeah. If you hit on a live service game, you are printing money for a long time.
And the very good reason that they may have pulled the plug on these two games is very, very possible that the abysmal showing from Concord just scared them out of the market. No, we're done.
But you'll hear, and I know somebody in particular that listens to this podcast, and they were bringing up, all this money that's being dumped into these games could have been used on something else. I think it's reasonable for Sony to have spent the money to pursue this thing. I get it from a business perspective. Yeah. Maybe I would agree that they went at it too hard.
Oh, absolutely. They went way too hard.
To the detriment of a lot of their releases.
Foam Stars is
Squeenix.
Yeah. It was for PS5.
Sure.
So yeah. I'm just saying, they were trying to get people in on this.
All I'm saying is that I think that they neglected their IP to their detriment. But I understand that they should have had maybe one more project going after it other than Concord, instead of just having everything like they were trying to do go after it. At the end of the day, I think what the direction they're taking Sony in now is probably a much more healthier one, because those live service games rarely ever hit.
Well, and two things to keep in mind. Usually when Sony cancels games, they also close those studios. Both Bend and Bluepoint are not being closed, as per the report. In fact, there was a statement that said, Bend and Bluepoint are highly accomplished teams who are valued members of the PlayStation Studios family, and we are working closely with each studio to determine what are the next projects. So they're not sitting there spinning their wheels. They're planning for the next big thing. And maybe that is what needed to happen. Maybe they needed to pull these games so that they could focus on revitalizing some of their IPs and things like that.
I'll be quite
We'll see.
honest. I'm not a big fan of the game, but the fact that there has not been another Bloodborne just boggles my mind. It's such a popular game,
That's on FromSoft though.
but now Sony owns part of FromSoft. But
Yeah, that may be part of the reason why now. Is that
I
now they can
guess,
say like, yeah, we're going to
yeah.
allocate people. But yeah, we'll see what develops of this. But it is kind of, it's never fun when games get canceled. It's never fun when things get pulled back from you. You just have to, you got to deal with it. But
yeah.
But then, then something comes around and somebody announces something and people get excited for some weird reason.
Oh yeah, totally weird.
And I mean,
why would somebody ever get excited about?
We were going to talk about something. I knew we were going to talk about something else. What were we going to talk about?
Oh man, I think it's like the tabletop elephant in the room.
I don't know.
It's like something that you could buy, put on your table.
But we don't normally talk about tabletop stuff. Like, I mean, I guess we could switch it up if we really needed to.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, Switch. Yeah.
Oh, Switch! That's right.
I'm sorry, we dragged that out way too far.
No,
I apologize to our audience.
No, don't apologize. That was awesome.
I apologize in full.
I don't. Embrace it. Switch 2 got announced officially.
It did. Details being very, very sparse.
Yes, but from what we can tell, looks like better controllers, bigger control. Everything's bigger.
It's a bit bigger machine. It's an 8-inch screen from what all the leaks and everything that I've seen, which is nice. I mean, 8-inch screen is nice on a.
But also, it's going. I think it's got the same type of screen as the Switch Pro or whatever they called it.
I don't think it's OLED.
I thought it was.
I think it's still LCD.
Yeah, well, we'll see. But anyways, bigger screen, bigger controllers. It looks like the buttons are easier to handle.
I still think, for me, and this is just a personal gripe with the Switch design, I think the PC handhelds have much better ergonomic design to them than the Switch does.
I agree with that.
I get it, they're trying to keep the system slim and all that kind of stuff, but one of my original problems with the original Switch is just hand cramps from trying to play it.
Yeah.
And so I don't see that being solved with the Switch 2. We'll see.
We'll see. I mean, you have yet to have the controllers in your hand to know.
Exactly.
So.
I'll eventually play it, I'm sure.
A much better improved kickstand.
Yes.
That will not just snap off.
Well, I prefer the whole unit that the newer OLED model has, but this one they did with the Switch 2 is just the outline.
With the outline bar is far better than the original Switch, though. That's what I'm going
undeniably. I can't argue that at all.
Because I don't think a lot of people can compare Switch Pro to Switch 2, but they can compare Switch 1 to Switch 2.
Yeah.
So, yeah, better kickstand. It just looks a little nicer, a little cleaner.
Less bezel. Yeah. I mean, that's all.
And
really nice around the screen.
Like they still come with the blue and orange or blue and red coloring, but it's not the prominent.
Accent.
Yeah, it's an accent, it's not the prominent color of the controllers. So people, they're trying to target the adult audiences with it. I think is because they're realizing, when we released the Switch, most of those kids are now older, so we got to make this thing look cooler if we want to sell it. So they're trying to keep up with the newer growing audiences.
I'll get to some speculation in a moment, but
okay.
There are some nice things. They are going to have, which I still think is probably too low, but they're going to have 12 gigabytes of RAM in the system. And there's been talk about how
4 gig more than the first one.
No, it's 8 gigs more than the first one.
Is the first one?
Yeah,
4?
the first one. Switch one had 4. It's 2 more than the Xbox Series S, and there's been a lot of talk about the Xbox Series S simply not having enough memory for some of the stuff going on, and especially to enable ray tracing and things like that in games. Right. I think the 2 extra gigabytes that they're baking into the Switch console should solve that to a large degree.
Yeah.
At least early in the generation. See what happens later on.
Right.
I think the chip that they're using in general, it's typical Nintendo. And I mean, what I mean by that is they're using an older process node. They're using Samsung's 8 nanometer process node that was used for NVIDIA's graphics cards all the way back in 2020. So they're saving money on production because that was considered an inferior process node at the time compared to TSMC's 7 nanometer process. And so they don't have as much competition on that. We'll see how detrimental it is, but truth be told, if Nintendo wanted to use some of the latest in technology in the form of like 5 nanometer, which is pretty common nowadays, they would have a system that is much more energy efficient and longer with their battery life. Right. Flat out, that's going to be the case. They could have done better. Would make the price go up. We don't know what the price is.
Like I said, we don't know what the price is yet. So
hopefully that in that older process node equates into a cheaper price on the console. If I was to take a guess, I'm thinking it's going to be around $400. I know
that's a good guess.
There's been rumors of $300, but I have a hard time believing they're going to hit $300.
Maybe $350 at the lowest.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
We'll see. Time will tell. Time will tell.
Yeah.
But we have to talk about the biggest thing of the trailer, which was only like maybe a couple seconds. But everybody's dissecting this and everybody's talking about it.
Everybody's dissecting it because that's all there is to dissect.
I know. Well, I mean, you could dissect more about the machine itself. But anyways.
The machine, I'll say this much.
Yeah.
I like the magnetic part of the Joy-Cons.
Yes, absolutely.
I do get
rid of the drift.
I do like that. No, well, that's the drift and it's hinged. I don't know. We'll see what happens with the Joy-Con.
I'm hoping there's something in the analog too. We'll see.
We'll see what they do with the analog sticks. I'm going to be very interested on the teardown. I am anticipating that they don't make any material changes to the joysticks themselves, meaning they're going to use very similar technology to what they did with the Switch 1. That's also in the PlayStation 5 controllers and Xbox One and Series S controllers, PS4 too, by the way.
So expect drift, yeah.
Yeah, I suspect they're going to use regular potentiometers, and eventually is going to be Joy-Con drift again, just like there's drift on all these controllers who use the same thing. I would be shocked, quite honestly shocked, if Nintendo goes with HoloFlex joysticks. If they do, awesome. Don't get me wrong, I would love it. The HoloFlex joysticks are more expensive though.
Which will relegate into the price of the machine.
Exactly.
We'll see.
Do I want Nintendo to do that? Yes. Do I see Nintendo doing it? No. And the reason I don't see them doing it is because that takes away future sales. Because your normal consumer, their controller is going to go bad, and there's not too many places around that will repair your controller. So what are people going to do? They're just going to go buy another controller. So if Nintendo puts in HoloFlex joysticks, what they're effectively doing is forfeiting a $40 sale is for the Joy-Cons is right now, $40 or more sale to replace that Joy-Con later on in the generation. And from a business perspective, I just don't expect them to do that.
Yeah. But back onto the big speculation, everyone's carving it apart. The video game that they used to showcase looks very much like it's going to be, and pretty much is, Mario Kart 9, which has been a long time coming. Not surprised that it's a system launch title, because I believe the 8 was also a system launch game.
It didn't come out too long after this launched, I think.
So it makes sense for them to put that up there. Biggest things to take away that I was able to take away from watching that trailer. That's a really long road. Really long. It looks like the tracks are going to be massive, or at least some of them will be much bigger than they've been in previous games, which is cool. Need more time to throw shells at people.
Well, I mean, then there's also longer races. Do people want that? I guess we'll wait. We'll see what happens. But
what they might do is, so what they did in Mario Kart 8 is there's a couple tracks where one of them is literally you're driving down a mountain. There's no laps on that one. You just, could that be weird? Like, I'm sure they could pull it off, but it'd be kind of weird. So it is top of the mountain, bottom of the mountain. That's the race. I can see stuff like that. Like here, it's just this very long straight road. You got one shot to make it to first. You know, it's very possible. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, it looked cool. The graphics looked really nice.
I would not say...
The only thing that, like, Donkey Kong looked weird. I'll say that. Donkey Kong looked a little weird.
Well, he's supposed to look like the movie version. As far as, like, the graphics and everything are concerned, it looks like a facelift to Mario Kart 8, not a generational leap. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. The people who are playing this game probably don't really care about that as much. No. And if a game is fun, at the end of the day, a game's fun.
And it does look like there's a bit of an overhaul to it too, like
a little bit.
We were watching somebody kind of go over it a little bit, and they were talking about how there's facial expressions more, and it looked like the carts also like express what the characters are expressing at the same time. Like Mario gets kind of squished up, and so his cart does too. We'll see. We'll see what more comes of it. But it looked interesting. Looked interesting enough.
I like I said, I just think it looks like a better Mario Kart 8 at this point. We'll see what happens with the full release. But I'd love to be proven wrong. I would love to be proven wrong. So
but that again, an improved Mario Kart 8 is what people want, though. So we'll see.
Okay.
But yeah, tell us what your thoughts are about Switch 2 Electric Boogaloo and anything else we talked about today, because there's just a lot going on. Not all of it's exciting, but enough of it is interesting.
The video game news cycle is full tilt all the time nowadays.
Yeah, it's getting weird. Like this January, February should be our months to put out our most goofiest videos of like whatever we want to talk about. This should be the time for it, and we'll probably get more out within this time frame. But they're still like, here's big epic drama news, whatever. So, yeah, we're just going to go from there. Thank y'all so much for watching, listening, whatever you're doing to our podcast. Just, be nice. Be nice to it. It doesn't do nothing wrong to you. Beyond that, just thank you guys so much for listening to us. We're excited for another year of this. Mm-hmm. We're excited for hopefully some bigger expansions to what we're doing. But
yes,
again, time will tell on all things. So keep looking forward to these. We like talking to each other, and we like talking to you. So please give us your comments. Appease the algorithm lords. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell your friends. Make them subscribe even if they don't want to listen to us. But make them listen anyways, because we're pretty awesome, we think. Sort of.
Kinda.
Yeah. Anyways. All right, that's enough rambling. We're going to get out of here. Have yourselves a fantastic week. Have an awesome time playing your video games. And we'll see you in the next one.
Take care.
Later.